everybody, Matt here. We're going to work on doing an install video for you guys today. We've already got one out there for the 09 and later bikes, but we're going to do an 08, 07, 08 bike today. We've touched on kit fitment, preload, a whole bunch of different videos and stuff, and we're going to go ahead and, as I say, do an install on this. We do have the other kit for 06 and earlier, but for all practical purposes, the 08 and earlier install is the same. It's just a difference of the top plate, and the 09 is something different. So I went ahead and grabbed one of the 07, 08 units. We've had one of these out earlier today, so we're going to go ahead and start. First, let me say that naturally this video will be online, but the written directions will come with your kit as well. So if you can, feel free to read those or follow this video, whichever makes the most amount of sense for you. So first thing we're going to do is, this is how we get the unit. This is how you get the unit from us. So we're just going to start by getting this harness all unwrapped off of here. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start to separate the top and the bottom unit. So how we're going to do that is, this is the pivot bolt. We're going to go ahead and remove this bolt. What that's going to do is that's going to free up the actuator from the shaft, and this is also what you want to do if you run into a problem with dead battery, or something happened with the stand, or really any instance, versus just overpowering this and pulling it back up. You can always remove this pivot bolt. It goes in the down position, and this would free the legs and free up the shaft. So, but again, we're going to go ahead and start there. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to take the two base plate bolts out of the bottom. So now we have two separate units. We have the top and the bottom. So ultimately, what you're gonna have to do is, I'm gonna have Rach just walk around the bike real quick and have a seat over there. We're gonna do the rest of the filming from the bottom of the bike. So Rach, I'm gonna have you kind of focus right up in this area, right here. Pull the chair over here myself. So the first thing you're going to see in the written directions, I'm going to kind of talk out loud here while this is filming, and I work my way around the bike. The first thing you're going to find in our directions is it's going to mention, it's going to have a drawing in there with a pride point on it, and it's going to correlate, and have Rach just slide right over here to right here. And the arrows in our written directions, they're basically going to pointing right here at this. And the other side, and the exhaust and the primary side of this, is what I refer to as the leading edge of this gusset. This is a pry bar I'm going to use, just anyone would work. I'm going to take this and I'm going to put this in between the frame right here, and this is basically how it is in the directions, and I'm just going to give this just a little tweak down, and that's pretty much it. If Rachel pan back up here to the top, you can see how that's in line now. This edge is in line with the frame and it's not tilted down. So I'm going to go over and do the same to the other side and get it coming down a little bit too, and that's all we need to do to get that fit down. You don't need to go crazy there. So I'm going to step out of frame here again real quick. I'm going to grab our base plate that we've already disassembled, and I'm going to go ahead and work and see how this fits in here. Now, for this application, I've got really lucky because the bottom of this bike is in great shape. So on other bikes and other usages, you would notice that these leading edges could possibly be beat in from road debris or trailer possibly, along with this back edge, right? Also, if you look in here, and Rach can pan in here, there's a nice gap in between the bottom of the frame and the bottom of this oil pan. If you find that this is pushed up in here, you're going to need to bend this away to get the proper clearance to try to get this flattened back out. You want to try to be careful though when you're prying in here, of what you're prying against, because this oil tank, you pry against it, you're going to have a heck of a mess on your hands. So you want to maybe put some wood on there, or really whatever you have to do. No rules and how to straighten this. You're just kind of working with what you got to work with, if that makes sense. So again, in this, we've got these two round, if you will, circular shapes, and they're going to fit in these two holes in the bottom of the frame right here. And when it's good, you're going to hear it slide in and click in just like that, and it's located. There's also a zip tie here. I'm not going to take this off today, but if I was doing an actual install, I would go ahead and completely remove that, so that way this bushing can sit all the way up against this frame rail. I'll tell you what, we'll just take it off there right now. So we're going to go ahead and cut that off. That way it ain't in the way for us anymore. Now we're going to recheck this. Again, we're going to listen or slide it in, listen to that sound. We're going to look at this back edge to make sure that it's not touching our shaft. You can see that it's close here, but it's not touching. Maybe a little bit of, very tight right there. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a hammer. You can kind of see on there where this is kind of marred up right here, where this has hit something. And this is a good case scenario. So I'm just going to take any hammer and I'm just going to start working this edge back in. And you don't have to go crazy. You just need to get the clearance away from this shaft. And that's what I've done. So the fit in here, we beat this in and we've got the proper fit. Again, we're going to listen for that sound. That's the locking in sound. And you're going to look at the fit again from here to here, and you're going to make sure that there's no gap in between the frame and this bushing. If you were to have this misinstalled or off, you could see where there would be a gap in there or a gap like this. If you start to see that, it's most likely because this frame rail isn't prepped properly. It really needs to be flat, just like I'm saying, and slide in to cassette style, boom, very audible noise. And just to reiterate one more time, this side, and then I'll have a H pan on over here, you'll be able to see also this side is up, they both are. And what that does in this model year of bike is that when the weight of the bike is on the legs and it's in the down position, all that weight is transferred through these bushings and into the frame. It makes it very, very stable. So I'm going to just go ahead and set this down. At this point, we know that the lower plate, this gusset plate, is all prepped for install. It's all ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the top plate and the hardware. We're going to go ahead and get it in here and get it moving. So I've got a couple tools out. The ones that I've used so far, I've just got a 3/8 ratchet and 1/2 inch socket, and then 1/4 inch ratchet, 1/4 inch extension, and then this is a 5/32 Allen. It's a stubby. It works pretty good for this. If you just have a hand tool Allen wrench, that's going to work out fine too. So this is the top plate that we went ahead and disassembled earlier, and I'm going to go ahead and I've got them disassembled, and I'm going to lead this in from the front of the bike just like that. So it's sitting in here by itself. You see how there's plenty of room in here still, in between the oil tank, we have H pan underneath here, and our frame plate. You see how there's still plenty of room in there. So at that point, this can just kind of hang in here by itself, and I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to again use Blue Loctite. I'm going to go ahead and hit these two bottom screws with my blue, and we're going to go ahead with this bottom plate, slide in, listen for that noise. And we're going to go ahead and see where we're at on this top plate as far as lining it up. So one thing that I like to try to do is I'll work from the back of the bike and I'll squeeze it together right here just how I am, so it takes the weight off of it, and you can go ahead and get these started. Just kind of give it a little jiggle like that if you have to, and we're threading up in there. Same thing, we're going to go ahead and do this back side. We're going to get it started. As you can see, everything's started. Kit's going together great, nice and easy. And we're going to go ahead at this point and we can tighten these up. So what's good to do is to snug both sides. So I went ahead and snug that left side. I'm going to snug this right side. Snug. Now I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to tighten this. And a good number on this, maybe 20 foot-pounds, something like that's probably pretty good. So At this point, our unit's installed. So this is one thing that I want to touch on, and I'm glad this has happened in the video. So right now that I have this tightened up, this shaft is completely almost bound up. It's very, very tight on here, and that happens. So the reason it does is because ultimately we could be tightening our plate to a frame that's not completely straight down there, and that's going to maybe just change the alignment of these bushings a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and address this problem as well, and I'm going to start by removing the MRI washer and bolt. I'm going to go ahead and set that aside for later use. I'm going to grab my hammer, and what I like to do is I use this socket right here. I'm going to go ahead and butt this up against here. You don't want to really beat on this too hard, but you're just going to tap this shaft out. Again, it's locked up in there. I've kind of done something not so smart right there. Hang on 1 second. Let me see if I can just turn this on. What I've done was my tab was back there, and it was not allowing me to tap it out, so we want to make sure this tab's in the bottom position. Since it is so tight, it's very hard to move. So a 5/16 wrench will go right on the end of this flat, and you can turn it that way if you need to until you get the legs on. So at this point, again, I'm just going to go ahead and continue to tap this out of here. And you see there how this is moved up a little bit like this. At this point, it's not going to hurt to flex this shaft just a little bit. You're not going crazy on it, to try to get just a little bit of play and wiggle room out of it. It's a stainless steel shaft, so it can take some abuse, if you will. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get this back started the other way. I'm going to work on taking this side off, and eventually I'm going to throw a drill bit in here, 1/2-inch drill bit. We're going to ream these out. We're going to get this play right to where we want it again. So we can roll this under like that, so it's not going to hurt anything. Again, we're going to remove this other side. Set this down, we'll be using it for later. I'm going to go ahead and load this up. I'm going to switch sides of the bike. I'm going to come over here and tap that shaft out. So I'm going to butt this up against there. You want to be careful not to damage these threads in here is your biggest concern. So again, we went ahead and tapped that out. And what we're going to do is we're going to come through here. We're going to push this shaft back. I'm going to go ahead and have Rach just roll tape here for a second. And I'm going to go grab a 1/2-inch drill bit. We're going to ream out this bushing, and we're going to get that fit real good before we go ahead any further with the install. Alright everybody, sorry about that. I'm going to grab a fresh battery here while I'm at. Alright, I'm back. So, the shaft size that we use in this application is 1/2-inch, and we can use a 1/2-inch drill to do the same thing as reaming this bushing. And basically what reaming means is that we're going to be removing material to improve the fit. So if you remember, when we had the shaft in here, it was kind of going at an upward angle like this. So we're going to try to ream this in a more downward way. So I'm going to go ahead and get this in here and get it started. And I'm going to start running this. What's optimal is to have your bit running at a higher speed and you're just going to kind of lift up on there, and you can see how material's being removed from the bushing. You're not hurting anything naturally by doing that. These bushings are a bushing that the more you use them, the more they lube themselves, so they don't need lube. And again, you're not going to hurt anything with doing that. So we're going to keep working this in until we improve this fit. So as you can see, we're getting better. We're not having to beat it in and out anymore, and we're working in the right direction. So I'm going to flip back over. I'm going to go ahead and remount this side in the same manner I did, and we're going to keep going back and forth until we get this great. When you're doing this, if you have more of the drill bit inserted, it works better than being all the way out here. You can kind of control the tool a little bit better that way, just for what it's worth. All right, so as you can see, we're free spinning in here. I actually wouldn't mind if this was just a little bit better. So I really try to make this to where there's no load really on the actuator, and it's able to free spin quite nicely. So while I'm on this side, I'm going to go ahead and pull it back into this bushing, and if you can see in here, the shaft is one to hang at a downward angle. This would be pretty perfect, and it's one to sit right here. So while I'm on this side, I'm going to go ahead and push this back through, and I'm going to just work this bushing one more time while I'm here. Again, going in the direction it wants to go, so if it's hanging like this, we need to make room like this. So we're going to go ahead and open up that bushing. Again, we're going to come back here, check our fit. And we know we're going to have to do that other side one more time, but our fit is getting much, much, much better. So this ought to be probably the last go around. We're going to start in here, and we're going to need to keep working this down and in. And then we're going to go ahead and recheck fit again. And this is going to be our money shot right there. As you can see, this is just great. I mean, there's no load on that. It's a strong actuator, but you can lock this shaft up. So I really am glad this happened today, because I wanted to touch on it. So again, the only other thing that we'd want to do from here is just blow these off. But again, you do not need to put lube on them. Lube is generated from the bushing through usage. Kind of a cool thing that we do here. So I'm going to switch back over. We're going to go ahead and get the pivot hooked up and continue on. So at this point, we've got our bushing blocks reamed and good. These fasteners are always tight from MRI, and we Loctite them before we send them. We've got our shafts free spinning, and we've got our two base plates both Loctited and torqued in there. So what we're going to do at this point is we're going to route our wiring harness, and this is going to be maybe, if you will, the A side of the connector coming from the harness. We've touched on this in other videos, but our wiring harnesses we send are going to mate with this. And ultimately, this side of the bike is the primary housing cover. So we're going to lead this up on the primary side, and I'm going to have Rach actually come over here on this side. I'm going to have her kind of come and try to get you the best point of view we can here. We're underneath the bike right now, and I'm going to feed this wire up behind the actuator. In between, this is the motor, this is the transmission, this guy, this is actually the oil pan, but transmission housing, this is the primary. We're going to feed this wire up. Come on up here, Rach. And we're going to look right in here in your shift linkage, and we can see our wires right there. second here. All right, and there it's popped up here. I've just kind of been twisting it on the bottom. And if you come in right here, here's the end of it. So I'm gonna pull this up. I'm gonna route this wire. As you can see, Rach, come on in here. You can see that this is routed on the outside of the shift linkage. That's not good. So we're gonna route this to the inside, pulling this up and pulling it tight, okay? So we have nothing underneath the bike. We have this pulled up, and from here, what I like to do is, I'm going to go ahead and, this is your transmission vent line. I'm going to roll this up out of the way, put this over to this side, and I'm going to push it down. That's Chopper, everybody. I'm going to push it down right in between this transmission top plate and the starter. And I'm going to start to hide this wire right in this channel. Then I'm going to roll my vent back down. This is tucked away nicely, and you can work that down all the way in there. So we're going to start to route this in under exhaust sensor wiring, under starter, and in through the back through the factory wiring. So routing this up, Rach, I'm gonna have you go ahead and come pan up here to the top. Your battery would be in here or not in this, so we've kind of taken this out. This is your factory stuff. We're gonna lead this through just like this. Now it's in your battery compartment. So in this instance, we can lead this clear all the way into this internal spot right here. So with that being said, we've got the stand and its harness all the way installed. So we also send, as previously talked about, our wiring harness, if you will, our switch kit. And typically the location that we use is going to be right here. We're going to have a Rach come on over here around and have a look in here. Pan on over here in this area. And there's a 1/4 inch hole right here. If this is where your air ride is, then you'll be needing to drill a hole in here, and the best way to do it, come from the top, is to drill it right through here in a downward way. In your electro box, you can use this ground stud. There's 2 in there. You can use either one of these ground studs for the location of the switch itself. So I went ahead and grabbed a test battery for this and our jumper harness. I'm going to go ahead and set that up here, and I'm going to run the stand down, and we're just going to say that you went ahead and have the switch on and you have a working unit. So as I go ahead and run the stand, you're going to see the pusher arm moving in and out because it's not connected anymore. So what I suggest you do is you run it to a position where you're not all the way out but not all the way in. You're going to get your shoulder bolt that you've removed from earlier, apply your Blue Loctite, and you're going to go ahead and start this shoulder bolt. Rach, stay here. In location on this pusher. So we've got this started in. Get our tools we had earlier, our 1/4 inch drive stuff, and we're going to go ahead and start fastening this pivot bolt, also known as the shoulder bolt, into place. So right now it's bottomed early and it's actually hitting on the tab. So when you do this, you want to make sure that you're in the location you really should be, and it will free up. Push this through. If need be, you may have to bump your switch around a little bit, to get you lined up to where you have the right amount of play. I just push through right there. Push through the tab, that is, I mean. And you'll see how it went all the way in. There is a little bit of play there, and that's for this tab to be able to operate properly. So now we have the unit completely assembled, and it is operational, as you can see. As you can see here, no load on it. Everything sounds and looks great. And from this point on, you're going to go ahead and follow the leg instructions that we have on our site as far as how to install your leg kit. Thank you so much for your purchases. I hope this video was helpful. If you need anything or you have other questions past this, please don't hesitate to contact us here. And thanks for all the business.